Good evening, Columbus community. It is Board President Adair, and I would like to welcome you to our November 4th regular board business meeting. You will see that today we are trying something a little new. We have gone hybrid. So we have some board members that are in person along with our superintendent. So we can start to practice just like some of our students are, how we're going to come back in this new world. So next meeting, we'll have different board members here who will practice with us. And that's what we're going to try. So hopefully you can follow along with us today with our masks. You can still participate via Facebook, and we'll have more information about how our future meetings will go as we keep figuring all this out together. So welcome to this meeting in our new hybrid format. Mr. Treasurer, will you please call the roll?
President Adair.
Present.
Ms. Beckerly.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Cole.
I am here.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Mr. Ragland.
Here.
And Vice President Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Facebook. Thank you so much. And we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Today we have a student ambassador from Beechcraft High School. I want to welcome Chloe Abahalaka. I didn't say that correctly. So sorry, Chloe. Tell us how to say your name so I have it right.
It's Chloe Abalika. You did get it right.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, you're going to lead us in the pledge. So for those in the room, let's go ahead and stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Chloe. How is senior year going, Chloe?
It's going okay. It's a bit different. It's a lot different, but we'll get through it. Thank you.
That's right, Chloe. We will get through it. Thank you so much for being here and leading us in the pledge.
Welcome.
Board members, you have the agenda that was provided to you. We did have a public comment, but actually they've submitted in writing, so no one is here to give public comment. You received something in writing. We have the superintendent's report, internal auditor's report. We will ask the treasurer if he has a report. We have board matters. We have presentation from the Ohio School Board Association. We of course have items on our consent agenda. And then we will end with board announcements and adjournment. No executive session planned this evening. Is there a
motion to approve tonight's meeting for November 4th, our agenda?
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
President Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes.
Vice President Reyes.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you so much. So we will jump down to item 5 for the superintendent's report. Like I said, board members, we did receive a public comment this evening, but it was in writing. I will turn it over to you, Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, President Adair. I have several updates to provide to the board tonight. First, First, I'm excited to share that the students in our career in technical education, CTE programs, at the district's 2 state-of-the-art centers, the Fort Hayes Career Center and Columbus Downtown High School, began their blended learning model this week. Students in cohort A attended on-site classes on Monday. Students in cohort B will start on-site classes tomorrow and continue on Friday. Juniors are attending on-site for half a day in the morning and seniors for half a day in the afternoon on their cohort day. For CTE students in person, it is critical to skill attainment, which is required for certification. In many cases, this certification can be a deciding factor for students meeting graduation requirements or attaining the appropriate post-secondary credits. This is why it's important for these students, these juniors and seniors, to be in their classrooms or lab and gain the necessary hands-on experience they need to graduate on time. So let's watch this brief video created by the communications department showing the first day back for some students at Columbus Downtown High School and the Fort Hays Career Center. I would like to recognize the leadership of the Columbus Downtown High School Principal, Cheryl Watson, Fort Hays Principal, Dr. Milton Ruffin, and Director of CTE, Celeste Lewis, for ensuring their facilities and programs were ready to welcome students and staff back this week. As I show in a moment, there is much work behind the scenes that goes into preparing our student buildings, our school buildings, for blended learning.
We're gonna get busy. We're gonna be working. It feels kind of good to have them back because these students that are in here, they've never worked in the lab before. And I tell them, you can't get a real lab experience virtual.
It's a lot better in this kind of environment for the students to be here doing hands-on work than it is to be on Zoom meetings. I teach welding. I teach about 10 to 12 different welding and cutting applications. My main goal is try to get these students ready for the job force and also to teach life skills that they really can't learn online or in Zoom. So I'm very happy to be back. I think I have a great group of students and I can't wait to go back full time.
When they get ready to do internships, they have to go into a salon, and I would not want them to go into a salon and have never worked in the lab. So this is giving them the extra footing that they need to be successful in the program.
All the students were very good and compliant, and I think they all understand, and I think they're happy to be back.
So our operations team has worked closely with our principals and area superintendents over the past weeks and months to ensure that our facilities meet the district's readiness standards. We have established 8 criteria to determine when a school building is ready to welcome in students and staff for blended learning. These standards meet all of the recommended health and safety guidelines that are necessary to operate our schools during the ongoing pandemic. So signage. So all school buildings must have signage installed throughout the building to show appropriate social distancing and the requirement to wear face coverings. PPE. All school buildings must have at least 6 school weeks worth of personal protective equipment, PPE, available on site, including staff and student masks, disposable gloves, bottles of hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes. Special education areas must also have additional PPE such as face shields and clear face coverings and gowns. All school buildings must have plexiglass barriers installed where 6 feet of social distancing is not possible and in common areas such as the school office. All school buildings must have furniture arranged to accommodate 6 feet of social distancing. This includes desks or tables in classrooms and common areas such as the cafeteria or the library. And all school buildings must remove and store excess furniture that is not needed due to the social distancing requirements. All school buildings must be clean and visually appealing daily. The custodial staff will ensure that the building is clean and disinfected frequently. All classrooms, hallways, common areas in the school building must be free of any clutter that could impede social distancing requirements and pose hazard for students and our staff. And all school buildings must identify a health separation room where a student or staff member who exhibits COVID-19 symptoms can wait until they're able to leave the building. The school will also have a plan on how the health separation room will operate. So those things that we are requiring all buildings to have, and we had those in place for our students that are returning, our CTE students returning. So despite the fact that most of our students are learning in a remote setting, our operation teams and our school leaders continue to monitor and ensure that our buildings are ready according to these 8 standards. When the time comes to bring more students into the blended learning environment, our school buildings will be prepared with all of the proper health and safety guidelines. As I mentioned in my report at the previous Board of Education meeting, we're working on ways to enhance our supports and resources for students who are learning in a completely remote environment. One of those enhancements was generated from feedback we received from families who said that they wanted more meal options for their students. I'm happy to report that we have delivered on that promise this week. On Monday, we began our expanded Fuel Up meal distribution program by providing daily lunch and breakfast options for students. At each of our 44 Fuel Up sites around the city, families can come Monday through Friday between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. to pick up that day's lunch and the next day's breakfast. For lunch on Monday, students could choose between a cold sub, broccoli, fruit, and milk, or a hot option, a slice of pizza with the same sides. For many families, this daily option offers convenience and provides a variety of meals. For those families who still prefer the weekly 5-day meal pack, we continue to offer that service from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 5 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday. In compliance with federal guidelines, families who choose to pick up a 5-day meal pack on Wednesday are not eligible to pick up a family meal over the 5 calendar days after that. I would like to recognize and commend our Director of Food Service, Joe Brown, for his leadership and adaptability in creating this enhanced offering for our families. This is a prime example of how the district is listening to stakeholders and adjusting how best to meet the needs of our community. For more information on our Fuel Up meal program and to see a map of the 44 locations, click the reopening tab on the district website. We continue to closely monitor our student attendance data in the remote environment. We have provided resources to teachers and families on our attendance check-in and tracking procedures. As of last Friday, October 30th, here are our attendance rates by region. As you can see, our overall rate and each of our regional rates have continued to increase each week. Our total student attendance rate is at 71%, which is a 4-point increase over the past 4 weeks. As we continue to refine our attendance procedures and track the weekly rates, we're also implementing strategies to engage with specific students who we have identified as being disengaged. As of last Friday, October 30th, we have been able to reduce our disengaged student list to just over 1,000 students. Through the combined efforts of our Department of Academic Services, Accountability, Engagement, and Operations, we are analyzing the data to discover reasons why these students may not be engaged with remote learning. For example, is it a lack of technology resources, a need for a safe space to connect with to connect online classes, or perhaps a language barrier? We believe that by identifying some root causes of disengagement, we can better serve these students during a period of remote learning. We have also implemented targeted engagement efforts to reach these students. We are identifying feeder patterns based on the data, as we believe we will be able to serve entire families who need wraparound services and create a sustainability model for student engagement, for school engagement, for those families from kindergarten through graduation. Our plan includes a multi-tiered collaborative approach. Phase 1 begins at the building level with teachers and school staff, such as social workers and counselors, who are regularly working to reconnect with these students. Phase 2 is where we initiate the House Bill 410 process for student attendance. This includes forming an attendance team and developing an attendance plan with interventions based on individual student needs and circumstances. The team will continually reassess to determine whether further interventions can be implemented at the building level. Phase 3, a member of the attendance team, in most cases, this would be the school social worker, will make a formal referral to a dedicated group of specially trained CCS safety and security staff or one of our district partners to engage in grassroots efforts. These efforts would include knocking on doors, in-home services, parent orientation sessions, wraparound services for the student and family, or linkage to a community agency and services as needed. If students remain disengaged, they will be referred back to the attendance team for further follow-up in phase 4. One of our longstanding district partners, Ethiopian Taiwanda Social Services, ETSS, will be assisting in our grassroots engagement efforts to support the families of our English learner students. We know that many of our new American and English learner students and families have struggled with engagement this year. There are a variety of reasons for this, including the new virtual learning environment, ongoing language barriers, and comfort level with navigating technology. Our partnership with ETSS is designed to address these concerns and many more using grassroots methods for engagement. ETS will have 7 bilingual liaisons for Arabic, Nepali, Somali Maya, and Kindaranda. Is that Kindaranda? If I pronounced that correctly. And 2 liaisons for Spanish. These liaisons will work directly with families to help increase their capacities for understanding and navigating technology, understanding and monitoring the students' academic progress, and working with school staff. So I would like to extend a warm CCS welcome to these new team members as they work with us to improve our new American immigrants and families' experience in Columbus City schools. And finally, I would like to welcome our partners from the First Church of God to this evening's Zoom meeting. First Church of God has always been committed to our community and our district. Whenever there have been troubling times in our community that impacted our students and families, Bishop Timothy Clark commits his church and his team to help address these challenges for families. As the pandemic hit last spring and forced us to begin the year in a remote learning environment, Bishop Clark knew that students were going to need support and technology to help them engage with their classes and continue on the path to academic success. Bishop Clark not only opened their doors as a learning extension center, but he also committed to supporting the students of Walnut Ridge High School with technology. Tonight, Bishop Clark is here to present Columbus City Schools with a check for $25,000 to purchase Chromebook computers for the students at Walnut Ridge. So please welcome at this time Pastor George Foots. At this time, if they're here.
Yes, they're wrong. All right, good evening to Superintendent Dixon and to President Adair and members of the school board. It's our joy here at First Church to present to Columbus City Schools and in particular to Walnut Ridge High School this check. We believe in the schools. We believe in our superintendent and the work that she is doing. And so on behalf of our congregation and our youth pastor, we would like to present this check for $25,000 to aid in helping students have equity in education through technology.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bishop Clark. Again, this is what it means for community involvement, community engagement. Walnut Ridge is located right there on the side of town. We're near your church, and oh my gosh, the students going to be so excited to receive this gift, and we are equally excited as your partner for all the continued work that you have done on behalf of students in the city of Columbus, not only Columbus City Schools, but tonight is Columbus City Schools that we're celebrating. And thank you so much for all of your efforts.
Well, we love and appreciate you and all the members of the school board and all of the faculty and all of the students in Columbus City Schools. God bless you all.
Thank you. Okay, and that ends my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, and thank you so much, First Church of God, for that wonderful donation. So board members, if you have questions for the superintendent, if you are in the room, just raise your hand. Board member Beckerly has put in the chat, so we will start with her, and then I will look around to see who else would like to ask questions. So board member Beckerly, to you.
A couple of quick things and then a couple of questions. I'm thrilled to see the intentionality in terms of connecting and following up with the students that aren't engaged. That's really exciting. I love the levels of it. I love the fact that it includes knocking on doors, and I love that we're using ETSS. And I just want to say that, you know, these are the sorts of things that we're doing now that we'll continue doing when we're, you know, back in regular school, and it's just really exciting. And it's the sort of thing that I don't think I saw happening when I was teaching at the same degree of intentionality and specificity. So I'm really thrilled about that. I also wanted to share that the decision to not have all of our students going hybrid, it turns out, you know, I personally, and I would think others are too, relieved because on our 3 times a week calls with the Department of Health, we have been seeing very high rates of infection. And 3 times in the past week, we've been over 240 cases per day. And today we heard that that's the level at which there's serious concern about the spread in the community. So I just wanted to share that we're grateful that our students are not coming into the buildings, at least at this particular time, because of that high infection rate in our community. I also have a quick question, and I think that you and I have discussed this already, Dr. Dixon, but it's worth sharing. The process in the building for any concerns they have about the safety protocols and the cleaning protocols. Could we just mention that quickly so everybody knows there's a loop that can be closed?
Yes, so the building readiness checklist that principals will have, they will be able to review those checklists with their BOT teams. And so the staff will work with the principal to make sure that the buildings have the proper PPE. If they notice something that needs to be addressed, they can bring that to the attention of the principals, and then the principals will report that to their area superintendent and to the operation team. So we didn't want to just leave it up to the building principals, their BOT or their leadership team. So jointly together, we believe that that's a best practice for for ensuring that that they have what they need in all of their buildings.
Terrific, thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you. We will now go to Board Member Ragland.
Thank you, President Adair. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. I'd like to reiterate voice of thanks to Bishop Clark and the entire First Church family for their support tonight. I also want to thank Mr. Brown for his work with our Fuel Up program. That is more than a notion to really respond in real time to the needs of our community. And I had several members of our community that reached out regarding our Fuel Up program and looking for answers for their young people. And I am just so proud that Dr. Dixon would take that and do what has been done in order to improve based on the needs of our students. My question is, it goes back to Board Member Beckerly's response around our disengaged students. It's really more of a question / suggestion if we don't have it. But are we in any way working directly with our environmental courts so that we understand that as many of our students are facing housing instability issues throughout this COVID environment that we're living in, that we may be able to track some of them as they move? I think one of the things that really kind of concerns me, strict definition of homelessness could mean that yes, you are evicted, but you moved in with an uncle or an aunt. You may not feel like you are in a homeless situation, but you are, and it's a very unstable situation for a lot of our families, and that looks to increase over the next several weeks and months. Could we have a closer tie with the environmental court so that we know and understand when our students may be in that court and start providing resources at that level that maybe the court is not equipped to provide comprehensively?
Yes, thank you for the question, Board Member Ragland. I agree. I know one of the things that we wanted to make sure, as you remember when we started, we had more students. We had almost 6,000 students that we had labeled disengaged, and then we started really taking a closer look at where our students were, making sure that if they were not enrolled, maybe they enrolled in other districts. So yes, now that we have the number is now 1,000, we are looking deeper after we get through that phase, the 4 phases. I think that's where we would take a deeper dive to see if we need some other interventions with our courts or some other systems. And that's where we want to make sure that that we are partnering with Franklin County Juvenile Services and also CMHA. So yes, we are partnering with them because we want to make sure, to your point, that we know where our students are, but better yet, that they're getting the services they need.
Yes, ma'am. And my last question concerns our CTE students, and welcome back to those young people. I was inspired by that video and the enthusiasm of our staff. I too want to make sure that those that are working in salons have had some hands-on experiences before they start working on some individuals out in the public. My question is, those sites specifically serve as workforce development sites for many of our suburban students as well. Have we brought back those students that are a part of our vocational or career technical programs that attend some of our suburban partner schools? Are they back inside the buildings as of yet? And if they aren't, what is the process for bringing them back on as we move forward?
Yes, they are back with us too. We were smiling as we were welcoming the students. There was a bus from Upper Arlington was dropping their students off as well. But yes, all of our students from the neighboring schools are back. And next month, we'll be back as part of my superintendent's report. We'll give you a report on how well all of our students are doing in our programs. So that report will be next month.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Thank you, Madam President. That concludes all of my questions for Dr. Dixon.
Thank you, Board Member Ragland. I have actually a clarifying question for you about when you were asking about courts and you specifically said environmental. Were you thinking about evictions of families? Not so much like our kids in juvenile court, but evictions. That's where he was going.
Yes, evictions. Yes, ma'am. And particularly for those families of our students, that may be a good place where we can catch a lot of our students that may end up becoming disengaged. And my suggestion is just simply if we could get our engagement department to start working more closely in whatever capacity that the court deems necessary or thinks that we can add some value. But as we have families that are going through those courts and they're saying, I'm being evicted or I'm going into an unstable housing situation. I have these children who are currently attending, Hamilton. We would at that point engage that family and say, okay, here's what we can provide for you with wraparound services. Here's some of the things that can add value to what the court is already doing to help those families navigate that situation. I just think it would be a belt and suspenders approach if we could provide some value there as well. So thank you for the clarification, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification of that too. Thank you. And I will make note of that to provide that for Alicia, because you're right. I know we have dollars for our students who are designated homeless, but to that extent, if we work with courts for evictions, I will make sure I'll follow up on that.
And Superintendent Dixon, the court actually has assigned social workers. So as I know, I work in a nonprofit organization. Those social workers have been calling our organization because we have some funding. So there are particular social workers. They actually have a couple social workers that are bilingual that have been reaching out to nonprofit organizations to see if there's any assistance. So there might actually be a live person that we can connect ourselves with. They have a list of resources. The person's actually right outside eviction court. The two, and they're actually social workers. They're not, liaisons. They're actual social workers that have been armed with a book of resources so they can connect people who are going through eviction with organizations and nonprofit groups to assist.
And if I could add briefly, not only are the social workers there, but legal aid, who often assists many of these families, would be a good place to start and to reach out and have some conversation with the director there, because they would appreciate and welcome whatever assistance they can get.
And thank you, both Vice President Reyes and Board Member Brown, for that. And this is one process I think Dr. Dixon might could look into, because I'm not so sure what the structure is behind this. But as we are looking at potential increases in McKinney-Vento dollars, there may be some opportunities for us to address this situation with specificity. So that might be just an area for you to kind of think of, have our staff looking at as we go through our cycle. So
that's good, because we did some reorganization, and I moved that office to is now under Alicia Gillison under engagement. We just felt that was a better fit because they're engaging families. And they have those dollars. So yes, so thank you. And I know they're doing some things with Job and Family Services too, that Alicia has been working with. I think it's now she's a new chief director, Joy Bivens, and that office. So I know there's been some additional support there. So So we'll follow up. I'll follow up and provide an update for you.
Thank you. We now have Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for the presentation, Dr. Dixon. First question, particularly on ETSS, and I definitely appreciate their presence and their work that they're doing and anticipating to do in the district. My concern is not only just with students that are disengaged, but also students who are quite engaged, but still being considered absent. Can you please provide direction to our families? And I know that ETSS, I'm hoping, let me move to rephrase, I'm hoping that ETSS will be providing services to families who have fallen in these cracks and gaps, if you will, of children having excessive absences, even though they were actually in class and have gotten grades. Will ETSS be doing that work and assisting families in understanding the process of making sure that their children are attending online, A, and then B, can you explain that process to any family or person watching who's concerned about this issue?
Thank you. So I'm going to let Alicia Gillison. Alicia?
Yes.
She's working directly with them to address that for you, Mr. Cole. Alicia?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Thank you, Board Member Cole. What you mentioned and how that attendance piece works, computer literacy is a giant component of that. And that's the computer literacy for the parents. So when you talk about the work of ETSS and re-engaging students, we have to re-engage the families first. So in March, we went into a whole new world. And that world, the linchpin to that world is computer literacy. How do you sign on to a computer? How do you Zoom? How do you get in Clever? How do you use Parent Portal? And yes, our, I'm gonna call them our bilingual liaisons with ETSS went through training last week, and they will be working with parents on how to access Parent Portal, how to use technology, and how to make sure your student is on, and how important it is for your students to be in attendance every day. And we're not just going to stop there, because what we heard from a lot of our new American and immigrant families was that they felt isolated. They talked about the language barriers. So that's why we were very intentional. We didn't just get bilingual liaisons that spoke the language. We got bilingual liaisons from that very same culture. So we can work with those families and bring them, give them the confidence and empower them to be able to support their students.
I thank you for that. And thank you again, ETSS. And also want to shout out our food service team as well, and any outside entities that are supporting our food service efforts. But my second question then is to, what do families need to know who are not new Americans, who are families who may or may not be computer literate? What do they need to know to ensure that their child is properly showing attendance and participation in class?
Thank you for that question as well. I think what families need to know, and what we are doing with our outreach efforts, is families need to know what is virtual learning. What does that encompass? What does it look like? Is it virtual 5 days a week? Is it going to be blended? Is it asynchronous? Is it synchronous? And so we have that. Dr. Dixon talked about the disengaged efforts that we have going on. So we've got 2 trains going here, but these 2 trains are for all of our students. So it is still working with those families so they know how to utilize what they have at their fingertips. And if they don't have it at their fingertips, and this kind of goes to what Board Member Ragland talked about, talking about resources. So our liaisons are also going to be making referrals, and that's making referrals to Columbus Metropolitan Housing. If a family doesn't have the appropriate technology, then we loop in our Chief Information Officer, we loop Wandana in. So they're not only going out to teach or to tell, it's a two-way street. So we are linking them with the services they need, whether those services are inside of the district, and those services may look like parents need to understand how you log on to Clever, when to log on to Clever, and what those various platforms are. And we're also trying to build parents' confidence and empower them with the ability to work closer with their teachers, with the students' teachers, that two-way communication, and with the building administrators. So it is a very heavy lift, but the beautiful part of it, it is a combined effort. I think just about every department is involved in it. Accountability, transformation and leadership, academics, operations, technology. It is all of us working together to make sure this happens. And I couldn't leave out equity as well. So it's the synergy that we have around it, and we're attacking it that way, sir.
And I think too, also to add to that, Mr. Cole, is making sure families are familiar with Infinite Campus.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and know how to, log in. And also, the Infinite Campus has a lot of different, if families know how to navigate through Infinite Campus, they can check and see if their kids have logged in on that day. Teachers, we're making sure the teachers going back and checking their students in. But families really need to become parents familiar with Infinite Campus and knowing how to log in. And we have those additional help sessions that we're offering for technology help sessions. You can also ask those questions too, or ask your school principal, just to making sure that that you understand first how to utilize Infinite Campus, and that you're logging in properly when you want to check your students' attendance or grades, or et cetera.
I thank you for that. Just as a quick summary then, for me to kind of give a synopsis of what I just heard, it sounds as if this is a collaborative effort that not only combines our internal organization and our stakeholders from the classroom to the administration, but also a collaborative effort on the part of family members or those who are in stewardship of our children, a combined effort that requires cross communication to ensure that a student is not only effectively enrolled in school on a day-to-day basis, but at the same time ensuring that there's quality instruction happening as well. So I'm glad to hear that there's that there's a teacher requirement to take attendance. So let me be redundant, because I see you shaking your head, but I just want to be sure that that's the case, that there's an incumbency on the part of the teachers, a requirement on the part of the teachers to ensure that a student is also attending that class, meaning that they've chronicled the student's attendance in the class. Yes?
That is correct, board member.
Mm-hmm. And I can have Dr. Klein is on from accountability. Dr. Klein, if you would chime in too to explain what that process looks like further for those who are listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dixon. To Board Member Cole's question, absolutely. So we are so happy about that. And with regard to our students being responsible, our parents that can help as well. And then most importantly, our teachers have always taken attendance. The part that is a little tricky is when a teacher is doing an asynchronous day, and maybe a student has an assignment for multiple days and they are asynchronous lessons. And so the teacher isn't seeing them face to face in this particular day. Maybe it's a 3-week assignment and every Friday for this particular school is asynchronous. This allows the teacher to look at, according to our Ohio Department of Education guidelines, it allows the teacher to take a look at the work that was produced and give them participation based on that work that was produced. And that is a guideline set forth by the Ohio Department of Education. So we're very excited to be using that.
Thank you. I just would like to, just for me, I think it's super important that we continue to strengthen the communications effort to the community on as to what this process is, what it entails in terms of collaboration. And the rationale for it, is that there's student self-advocacy. There's student self-advocacy component to it, because that student is responsible for ensuring that they're present and ensuring that they're accounted for being present, and that there is the district side of it as well. The only part that challenges me that I'm just not clear on, and I don't want to belabor this, but it is super important to me. My own child got over 70 absences, and this boy has got a 3.4 GPA. And I know that there are dozens of other parents out here who saw this letter come home and, bugged out. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that there are internal systems in place with our teachers to ensure that that student population is captured, particularly when we have to account for student attendance at given times of the year. This last month, in fact, we had to account for student attendance. So what systems are in place on our side of the table to account for student population and participation?
Board Member Cole, thank you for that question so very, very much, because it's near and dear to my heart. So all teachers are required to review attendance. And just so you know, when attendance was not reviewed, some of the teachers chose not to review it as well as maybe they should have first quarter. Remember, those teachers can always go back and correct attendance that they know of. And a parent, keep in mind, for any asynchronous day, a parent can also email the school. Wandana Virney's team made sure that we have emails to every attendance line at every school, and all the parent has to do was email them and let them know. We even have special codes within Infinite Campus. As you might know from your own son, we even have special codes that say that a parent had indicated that the student was present. So those are all taken care of and part of our grace and flexibility plan that was approved by the Ohio Department of Education. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for your team's due diligence and following up and making sure that that was taken care of. I just want to make sure that we are doing that for so many other families that are absolutely in need of, and again, excited that ETSS is involved in that process. So thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. I am one of those parents too that got the letter, and I actually just went and checked my kid in today because she did not do her attendance in Infinite Campus, and she's going to be in trouble because I yell at her every day. So this is a real challenge for all of us, and so it is nice to hear we have grace and flexibility around that issue. All right, so now we have Dr. Pierce.
Thank you so much, Board President. Dr. Dixon, thank you so much for your report. I have a couple of questions. So the first question relates to our health separation room. You indicated that the schools will have specific requirements for that. Will there be a district standard that sets a baseline of what the minimum requirement is, and then a school can alter or do something a little bit different? So for example, when you initially reported on the health separation room, I think it was just called the isolation room at that time, you indicated that parents had 30 minutes to come pick up their children. So the question is, will there be a district baseline at which all schools will adhere to, but then do some things just a little bit different?
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. So yes, we will have a standard across the district for that separation room. Now, we want to be clear that it's going to depend on, as well as, if we call a parent, we would need a parent to to, or a parent or guardian to come and assist us too if they need to pick up a student. But I'll let Dr. Chapman chime in because Dr. Chapman's, she supervises the principals and the schools, and she can chime in and inform you what the procedures we have in place for that. Dr. Chapman?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Dixon and board member peers. The expectation is that the isolation room or the health room is really just a holding space. And so we do not intend for any student to spend prolonged amounts of time in that space. It is intended to be a temporary space to provide and to provide supervision to students until we're able to reach their families. And so the expectation would be that families are responsive to the call and recognize the need to act with urgency when we make that call and inform them that their student or their child is identifying COVID-related symptoms.
Thank you so much. So then my next question relates to our fuel up options. I was one of those board members that was reached out by a number of different community members, and I actually went out to our sites and spent some time and ate some meals and got some moldy stuff and got it replaced. And first, let me say a huge thank you to our more than 300 food service workers. As I visited those sites, I saw those workers separating the food items, reboxing them up, making sure that our families had everything that they needed. Those food service workers were also volunteering to step up and do more to make sure that our kids could get the hot options and the fresh fruit and the veggies. So big, huge thank you to our food service workers for everything that they've been doing to feed our children. So my question about the fuel up options then relates to, as we think about our students coming back in these blended hybrid learning environments, what additional precautions are we taking as the families go into those fuel up sites to get those meals? Are there some things that families need to know in terms of just anything different that they need to be aware of as we're slowly opening our buildings back up for student learning?
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Great question. I would like to, Mr. Odom, who's our Chief Operating Officer, he can answer that question and let you know all the precautions that we are taking. Mr. Odom?
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. Thank you, Board President Adair, to Board Member Dr. Pierce. Thank you for that question. Yes, we are actually using a grab and go model similar to what we utilized in the spring. And the first and foremost always is safety. And we're also going to have safety security there to help monitor the crowd. So our plan and what we're going to utilize is where staff, where families do not have to come deep into the building, where we have the tables and the food areas set up closest to the entry point. And then also we're going to practice social distancing and continue to have markings around the facilities so that families, staff, and everyone that's in the facility is safe, and also keep separation from inside the building.
Excellent. Thank you again so much for that adaptability that we are showing as a district. My next questions are the tough questions. They relate to data. So I specifically want to know, what is the percentage of reduction in our disaggregated students? So you show us those numbers decreasing in those regions, but you don't refer to the actual percentage of reduction. So I'll be specific. Region 5, we do see a number decrease there, but what's that percentage of reduction?
So I can give you all of those data points. I don't have those with me, but if you can give me all of those, I can have them for you by the end of the week.
Awesome. Okay, that then relates to my next question. And all of these relate to our last meeting when you disaggregated the attendance by region, but then you also did disaggregate it by race and ethnicity. Mm-hmm. This time we don't have those race and ethnicity numbers. So I'm really interested to see if we made some gains with our Pacific Islander students. Last meeting, they were at 39.74, and I would love to know where they're at, given the efforts that we've had this week and how we plan to move forward with those efforts in the future. The next question is, as we look to those trends or as we look to those data, what trends are you starting to see in terms of our student engagement, not just with attendance, but maybe also with the level of time that they're logged on, the emails that they're starting to send to their teachers, the emails that principals are starting to see? Are there other data points that we're beginning to see some trends in that we can also use to show that our students are engaged outside of attendance markings?
Yes. We're still working on what that will look like, and when we get those developed, I'll report those out to the board.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. Up next is Board Member Brown.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who has already presented. It's good to hear such great reports about work that we are doing, whether it's our food service team and the great work they're doing, but everybody else, and thanks to Bishop Clark and First Church of God. Wanted to ask, and I guess this goes back to Carol Beckerly's initial comment on the, first, I guess I want to commend our leadership and superintendents, especially for the decisions that have been made relative to COVID and the pandemic and keeping schools closed and extending that. I don't know that anybody quite foresaw where the numbers would get to and are likely to continue to be very, very high, both on new infections, on deaths, and in several other areas. So, thank you for that. I know it's not easy, and I know that there are plenty of people on both sides of this that feel strongly, including the woman who had intended to speak to us tonight. But I wanted to find out, with respect to the Ohio State, I think it's CATS, how far along are we? Where does that stand? And I'm hoping that we've got that in place and that data has become available to us.
Yes, thank you, Board Member Brown. I have Dr. Roush is on. Dr. Roush, can you provide us, you or Dr. Stanford, with where we are with the CATS program?
Thank you very much for the question. At this point, I know, completed the data sharing agreement. We've, I think, had some initial conversations internally with our team as far as the best way to start to pull that data. I think the next step now is to sit down with Ohio State and our partners at Columbus Public Health. I don't believe that meeting has quite been set up yet with everything else going on, but I know that it is set to occur in the very near future.
Well, great. I'm happy to hear that's moving along. It'll be great to have that fully in place and to have the opportunity, as we will, have a much broader set of information and guidance coming to us about our own situation, so that we can make plans with the best information and both scientific and medical available. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. And quickly back to Board Member Beckerly.
I'm actually going to follow up on what Eric, Board Member Brown, was just saying. A question about this CATS program or effort we're getting involved with. It seems to me, and I don't know if this is part of it or not, but maybe it's worth just mentioning in general, that part of what is in the balance when we're making these decisions about whether to go to blended or whether not, and whether to bring in high needs special ed kids and why, is balancing priorities of our students and the uniqueness of our mission, our population, and our district. And I think that, you know, and we kind of encountered that a bit when we started to look a little more closely at bringing in, which decision I totally supported, the high needs, complex needs special ed students, because we know what we know about what our challenges are in terms of maintaining social distancing while also educating our students, providing instruction, is unique to us. And so, you know, it's not sufficient to say, well, you know, certain schools are bringing kids in and it seems to be going okay. Why isn't CCS doing it too? Because we have our own unique challenges. The whole busing situation makes our challenges more unique. You know, even, you know, our families from other parts of the city, our ESL population, all of these things make our challenges different than others. And I think anything that allows us to be able to inform the healthcare and the health advisory guidelines with our mission so that we get really meaningful decision making is important. Because I think it's easy for people to say, well, you know, so-and-so Catholic school is bringing their kids back. Why don't we bring them back too? Or, you know, and I think that we need to understand that our mission and our challenges are different, and we need to get really specific advice because of that. So I'm excited about this CATS thing for that reason. I also think it might be worth considering to the extent there's a certain drumbeat in the community saying the kids need to be back, and it's so important that they're, you know, we should be able to figure out how to do it and how to do it safely. I think it might be helpful as we consider that to tease out how much of that is about academics, which is our primary mission, and how much of that is about social emotional concerns and concerns about kids needing to be engaged because we've got violence and other stress things going on in our community. Because those are really two different reasons to want the kids back. And I think, you know, there may be some ways to address that latter one while doing, having a really strategic approach to the education piece. And it kind of gets back to my thinking about the potential of extending the LECs to opening some of our buildings and providing a safe place to learn, while continuing to have high expectations about the improved use of technology, both in terms of our students getting better at it and also our teachers getting really good at it, and focusing on that as an objective. And I think that it might be worth, as we consider the various concerns of the community, to try to tease out those two factors. Oh, and one last thing. And I think this is sort of touching base on what Dr. Pierce said and what Board Member Cole said about, we have good data on attendance numbers, and we have good data and a good strategy about those who have not been engaged at all. And I think that that was your priority. And clearly those are the things we had to wrap our arms around first. And, you know, so I look forward to hearing about how we're going to define, which is the challenge, what is engaged, what isn't engaged, and maybe there'll be strata within there. And then again, systematically come up with strategies. But I just wanted to acknowledge that you had to get the priorities addressed first. And I'm looking forward to the, you know, the next phase. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Beckerly. We're going to go back to Board Member Ragland.
Thank you, President Adair. I guess for me, the conversation around bringing students back really centers on the fact that COVID's going to be here for a while. We're not going to magically just lift ourselves out of this current situation. To your point, Board Member Beckley, around the social and emotional issues, I think a lot of those problems are being exacerbated in some of the homes of our students because of some of the realities that they are facing that we may not see. Um, you know, parents unable to work, and what that does within the home for a family, is something that we can't really put a finger on. If we're going to be in this environment for the long term, which it seems like we are, um, we've got to start working on ways to cope within this environment, and figuring out that process, in getting our children back inside the buildings is something that we've got to do. We now have I just saw a report the other day where Dr. Roberts from Columbus Public Health is imploring us to bring students back inside the building. She's been here on several occasions, speaking to us about these health issues as we have gone along. But I think what it's going to be important is that, if our administration comes up with a plan that says, here's what we feel is the safest way to bring students back inside the building, that it's going to be up to the seven of us to really be supportive of that. And I'm for making certain that we say all the right things in these types of discussions. However, we've got to do the right thing when the time comes for us to make those important decisions. And that is where I really want to see us show some leadership, because there's going to be tremendous pushback, uh, as there has been thus far. There's going to be a lot of ramifications for each of us, for making a decision to bring our students back inside the building. We all know that. However, um, we've got to do what's best for the young people more than anything. Their safety and security, their education is what we are here to do. And so, I am looking forward to seeing even more detail about the structure by which we will engage in January now, with the announcement that has already been made. And then let us as board members start building community support around this effort, so that we can have the support that we need to make the right decision for the young people. Thank you for allowing me to say that, board president.
You're welcome. Nope, sorry, Board Member Beckerly, because I have Vice President Reyes next.
Oh, right. I wondered. I thought maybe she decided she didn't want to say anything.
No. Thank you, Board President Adair. Mr. Ragland, I was going to go down a little bit on that. Also, the only thing I wanted to mention is I know that as I've talked to a couple of students and a couple of parents, there is still high levels of stress and anxiety, especially some of our students that have back-to-back classes. So one of the, I have a couple of families that have several students, and they've talked about the difference, even in the same building, of one child has the opportunity to kind of have like a mini recess where they talk about their day or do some fun things, while the other child, it seems like it's back-to-back classes. They have a class, maybe 15-minute break, a class, 15-minute break, and so the child that's had the recess talked a lot about being very disappointed about not coming back to class when the decision was made that we wouldn't go hybrid. While the other child is like, I'm in school all day anyway, so I just got to keep on going. There was and I meant to send this to you, Dr. Dixon, but there is a school that has talked about how to uh, provide stress and anxiety resources to every child in their district. And I wrote it down, and I'll have to give that to you. But while we're waiting to see when if we go back to hybrid, depending on what this virus is doing, I think those are things that we need to begin to initiate throughout the district. I'm sure you've thought about it. I'm sure there's places where it's some people are doing it very well, but as you consider professional development and as we continue to roll out, I just thought it was very interesting that a few parents told me the same thing. Children in the same building, different grades, and just how the difference in the feedback from each of the children on whether they felt they liked school or didn't like school because of the way that they had flexibility in the learning. So I don't know if that's a question or a statement. The other question or the other issue that I've been presented was I had a couple of parents that talked about delinquency in the sense of they're having some challenges addressing their children who do not want to come to school. They don't want hybrid. They don't like it. I'm sorry, not hybrid. They don't like virtual. And so they've stated, and these are children that are by law have to go to school. They've stated they don't want to go to school. The questions that the parents keep asking is that what can I do? Who can I call? They don't feel that they have somewhere to turn. Can you share with our parents, what are options for those parents? Who should they call if they want to talk through when the child just doesn't want to come to school and the parent is getting penalized by law because their child doesn't want to continue in this virtual learning environment?
Yeah. Thank you, Board Member Reyes. The family should always reach out to the principal and the teacher. Call the teachers, call the principal, the social worker. You always start in the building because the building principal and the teachers and social worker, they know your kids best. And they can personalize it for you and really give you some strategies that are very specific to your kid. I always say again, the principal knows all the students. The teacher drills another layer with the support of the social worker. That I think that team is the first place that parents should reach out to. They can give you so many different strategies, so many different resources, especially if those students are considered one of the disengaged students that we were talking about earlier, right? So, what is it that, you have students and the parent the student to be engaged. The student may have a device, the student have a hotspot, but for some reason they're just not engaged in this format. We need to know, so as you stated, so the parent is not being penalized, that there's some additional resources that our families need. That's why we have this Office of Engagement. That was a very intentional strategy last year. How do we engage parents so that they can understand what should happen in schools, what should not happen in schools, and how can we provide the supports that they need so that their students can have what he or she needs. So again, start with the principal, the teacher, the social. Immediately call them, send them an email tomorrow.
And Dr. Dixon, the parents, what they shared was that the student did not understand that by law they had to go at a certain age you have to go to school. So these are new Americans that I was discussing. So we're talking with not saying that it's unique to just them, but they had gone to the court. The child had shared with the court that they did not want to go to school, and the mother was trying to let the child know there are repercussions when you make that decision and you're under 15 years old. So as you can imagine, the mother was extremely frightened as to what would happen to her when the child continues to refuse. So thank you. The other questions that I had was, I've had a couple emails where parents have asked if they're going to be getting those cards, the SNAP cards again this year. Well, if that happens, I would assume our parents should rest assured that we will share that with them. Perfect. Just wanted to, and then lastly, I just wanted to also give thanks to Bishop Clark and First Church God for the donation. So that's all for my questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Klein, did you have something to add?
We have to unmute.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you, Board President Adair. I just wanted to say to Board Member Reyes's comment with regard to the SNAP cards and so forth, if in fact we do have that opportunity again that comes up, the information that we share from Infinite Campus in order to get those EBT cards sent, it is very important that parents update their addresses if anyone has had a change of address. They can do it all virtually. They don't have to come into the center and be worried about anything, but we want to make sure everyone's address is up to date for those EBT collection cards. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Klein. Board Member Beckerly?
I guess the one thing I wanted to stress is that to the extent the driver behind whatever decisions we make about how and when to do blended learning is the social emotional piece and is concern about the safety and wellness of our students. We should treat that as a community problem and not just our challenge, and try to figure out ways to bring in resources and support from the community to help us with that, so that teasing out the driver, how much of it is purely education driven, how much of it is SEL driven, just for a shorthand term, should inform who we turn to and how in terms of looking for support and extra resources.
Thank you, Board Member Beckerly. All right, I think we are finished with questions. Thank you for that kind of extended discussion. We had time on our agenda, so we allowed that to happen this evening. Thank you, Madam Superintendent, for your report. We will now turn to the internal auditor. Welcome, Auditor Smith.
Thank you, President Adair. President Adair, Vice President Reyes, and members of the Board of Education. The Audit and Accountability Committee met on October 29th. The committee discussed one report and voted for the release of the report. The release report was over the accounts payables operations. The report noted commendations for implementation of electronic payments to our vendors. This allows for a quicker turnaround for vendors to receive payments and eliminates any manual processes that were required with our former processes where the vendors were receiving actual checks in the mail. So kudos to the Treasurer's Office and the Accounts Payable Department for successfully implementing that change. Also, the Accounts Payable Department successfully implemented 5 of 9 prior year recommendations. The benefit to any audit or assessment is in the implementation of the recommendations, such as the one that was just discussed above. Of the 4 outstanding recommendations, only 1 rose to the level of high risk, and that recommendation was effectively implemented before the audit report was even issued. So once again, kudos for implementing and strengthening that identified control weakness. And that was basically an issue where there was a recommendation for two-factor authentication, which the Treasurer's Office has implemented. The remaining open recommendations will be tested at a later date and the results presented at a future board meeting. It was a pretty succinct meeting, and this pretty much concludes my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Auditor Smith. Any questions for Auditor Smith? Board Member Ragland?
Thank you, Madam Auditor. I too would like to thank our treasurer for his work and the work of his department on implementing those recommendations, making an announcement that our next Audit and Accountability Committee meeting will be in January of 2021. We have yet to set the formal date for that, but it will be in January of 2021, and be on the lookout for that formal announcement. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Madam Auditor, for your work.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. I do not see any other questions, so thank you so much for your report this evening. We will now move to the Office of the Treasurer. Mr. Treasurer, do you have a report this evening?
Hi, good evening. No report from me this evening, just an announcement that the Finance and Appropriations Committee will hold its next meeting a week from tonight on November 11th. It will be fully virtual still. I guess we'll let a handful of you board members figure out this hybrid model before we jump into it. So, but we'll meet November 11th, 4 p.m. online. We'll get those notices will be published.
Thank you so much. Co-chairs of the Finance Committee, any comments? I'm seeing head shaking, so I will take that as a no. Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer. All right, we will now move into item 8, board matters, and I would like to welcome members of the Ohio School Board Association. We have Mark Bobo, Membership Retention Engagement Consultant, and Kathy McFarland, Deputy Chief Executive. It's always so lovely to see our friends from the OSBA, and you have some things to talk with us about.
We sure do. Thank you and good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy McFarland, and I am the Deputy Executive at Ohio School Board Association. Thank you for the privilege to join you this evening. Great conversation. OSBA truly appreciates this opportunity. Public service as a school board member is not an easy task, as you well know, and the rewards of board service are few. In the end, the true reward is that school board members have the opportunity to make our schools a better place to learn and our communities a better place to live. We are fortunate that Columbus City has shared one of your own with the state of Ohio. Tonight, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Tina Pierce. Dr. Pierce served this community as a member of its school board for 4 years. She has provided leadership to the state of Ohio through a tireless commitment to our Central Region Executive Committee, Urban Network, and Board of Trustees. And she has been dedicated to self-improvement, becoming the best board member she can be. She's been involved in professional development, covering urban schools, school finance, mental health and social emotional learning, and much, much more. Dr. Pierce, we are indeed indebted to your service and extend the gratitude of 3,500 school board members and the communities they serve. On behalf of the OSBA officers, trustees, membership, and staff, we would like to present to you this token of our appreciation, which I hope everyone can see, and I'll make sure that I get it delivered to you. So congratulations. We also want to thank the Columbus City Board of Education for all of their support for Dr. Pierce, first sharing her with the OSBA Central Region and now supporting her as she works on behalf of nearly 1.7 million students in the state of Ohio. I'm proud to present you with this plaque as well. Thank you again. See if I can get there on my Zoom. Thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of your program tonight. If I or anyone at OSBA can be any help to you, please reach out to us anytime. Thank you for letting us join you tonight. Mr. Bobo?
Good evening, and thank you again for allowing us to be here. I have a very quick congratulations again to Dr. Pierce and to the entire School Board of Education for their recognition tonight. I have a very brief presentation for you. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. All right. But as to echo Dr. McFarland, thank you to each of you for your continued dedication and commitment to the city of Columbus and the children that attend Columbus City Schools. Very honored to serve with you, and OSBA wants you to know that you all have served as members with the association for the last 60 plus years, and we don't take that membership for granted, and we're thankful to be able to continue to serve with you. Very quickly, 3 things we want to talk about in regards to the value of your membership. OSBA's response to COVID-19, our diversity and equity consulting services, and our 2020 National Capital Conference. As we all know, when March came, a totally different world set upon us, and we had to face things that we didn't see coming. But we wanted to make sure, as your board association, that we aptly prepared you in regards to your continued leadership during this time. I'm referencing the OhioSchoolBoards.org coronavirus COVID-19 resource page. This page is being updated on a weekly and monthly basis in regards to resources and information in regards to leading during this time. I want to specifically highlight the town halls that we hosted from beginning of April till about the end of last month. Each week we met as an association to highlight some of the expertise throughout this state in regards to reopening, sanitizing of buildings, in regards to mental health and social emotional learning in pandemic states. So those town halls have been recorded and are on this resource page. I welcome each of you to visit this resource page to get the information that is still available to you as members of OSBA. As well as we know, in our society, we've had to have some conversations in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And OSBA is attempting to lead the way in that conversation, providing diversity and equity consulting services. We've partnered with 5 different entities that have a wealth of knowledge and experience in regards to diversity and equity. And these firms will come and partner with you to do a plethora of things in regards to diversity and equity and inclusion, such as diversity audits, professional development for your district leadership, your building leadership. So these consultants have been working with a number of our member districts, and we've gotten rave reviews about the expertise and the work that has been done in this space. So I welcome each of you to go to the Diversity and Equity Consulting Services page at OhioSchoolBoards.org and check out the different entities that we're working with. I think they will be of great help to you. And finally, we're excited. We're just a few days away from our 2020 Capital Conference. And I must give kudos to Columbus City. We have over 25 registrants from you all's district to the conference. So we're excited to have each of you there. I do want to make this very quick point. Yes, our conference is virtual this year, and we'll be live there November 7th through the 10th. But what we think is so impactful about this year's conference is that every session is being recorded and provided on demand through December 31st. So we know it's kind of hard to take off work sometimes and be able to get away during the day, but those conference sessions are being recorded and you can watch them from the comfort of your own home, have your own coffee or whatever, and enjoy the sessions and get the information that's being provided at our Capital Conference. Again, we have over 60 learning sessions. We're bringing in Kai Kite, who is a violinist, who is going to show us how to take music and write the music for our own lives. We have Kate Fagan, who is an advocate on behalf of women's rights in education and in leadership. And we're ending with Dr. Edward Foley. We're excited about the conference and we think it's going to be wonderful and we want to have each of you there. But again, if you're not able to be there live, those sessions are available to you through December 31st. So we want to thank you again for being members with OSBA. We're so appreciative to have the support of Columbus City to serve with us. Again, my name is Mark Bobo, serve as the membership engagement consultant. Is there anything that we can do to continue to support the leadership in Columbus City? We thank you for that. So President Adair, each of the board members, thank you again for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about the Capital Conference. I have it on my calendar, excited to attend the sessions. Any board members, before I turn it over to Dr. Pierce, if she'd like to say anything about her award. So congratulations, Dr. Pierce. I don't know if it was a surprise. I knew, but I'll let you, it was a surprise. So I'll let you say a few words. So I'll give you a second to think about it if you want, but does anyone have any questions for the OSBA? Board Member Ragland?
No questions for the OSBA. Thank you so much for your honor and recognition of the board, and especially for your honor and recognition of Dr. Pierce, who's been on the front lines of education for this community for quite some time and does just yeoman-like work in everything that she does. It's always student-centered, and I'm just so proud that you all would recognize her work, and I thank you Dr. Pierce, for everything that you do on behalf of our students. So kudos to you and a well-deserved recognition. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Pierce, you ready to say a few words?
I'm very completely shocked and honored. So let me thank all of my colleagues, our team, our families of Columbus City Schools, to my colleagues at the Ohio School Board Association. Thank you for this honor. It's very funny that it would happen today, a day after an election in which I've spent the past 30 hours with my children, with family members, with friends, kind of questioning if I'm walking in my purpose. And people who know me know that I'm very intentional about walking in my purpose. And the election just really had me questioning, am I focused on the right things? You know, have I deterred from being called as an educator and being in classrooms and educating people to board service, and helping the community in the way that I see myself helping the community? And so you all, with my face being covered up, you can't see how heartwarming this is, how much I appreciate it, how much just in this moment it confirms for me that I'm in the right place, that I'm doing what God has led me to do, that our universal creator has guided me to be here with all of you all and in true service. And that's exactly what it is for me, to be a servant of our community. I get so excited to see our kids in buildings and games, to be approached by our families at the grocery store, at the gas station, with different questions. And then sometimes to be told at 3 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Pierce, stop answering emails, please go to sleep. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to our community for just recognizing the level of work and the commitment and dedication that I have to our children and to our district. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Congratulations again, Dr. Pierce. And again, thank you, Ohio School Board Association. Just so everyone understands, we are a member of this association. We do participate. Dr. Pierce is a trustee. I'm a delegate to the legislative caucus. And we also are a member of the Black Caucus, which works on issues around for our African-American students. And, they put on great training, and they have, if you're interested in becoming a board member, they have training for that. So they are a really great resource. So I just want to thank both of you for taking the time to come and talk with us and to honor us. We're all on the same team, really pushing for equity across all schools in Ohio. And it's really amazing to be a partner with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead. Bye. Okay, thank you. All right, board members, we are going to move into item 9, which is our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of items 10.1 to items 23.4. Are there any items that we would like to remove from the consent agenda this evening? Misty said I said it wrong again. 23.4.
23.3.
Oh, sorry. 23.3. Okay. 20.
That was my fault. That was my fault, President Adair.
Okay, I'll let you take.
We had doubled down on the 5-year forecast, so I'll take the blame for that one.
All right, items 10.1 to 23.3. And I saw no one requesting to remove any items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
A second.
Thank you. Are there any items that the board would like to discuss this evening? Dr. Pierce, which item?
Item 18.9 and 1811.
18.9 and
18.9 and 1811.
18.9 is the award of design build contract to the Brewer Garnet Company for Operation Fix-It HVAC renovation phase for Whitstone High School, Columbus Gifted Academy at Everett. And you said 1811. It's a approval of deduct change order 1 to Johnson Controls for Operation Fix-It HVAC renovation for Medina Middle School, Ridgeview, Alpine, Cranbrook, Eakin, and Scottwood. Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, so the question is, have any of the job requirements, regulations been changed as a result of COVID-19? And just if the team would like to speak to how this not only updates the system, but will also allow us to be very proactive in our COVID-19 precautions.
Dr. Dixon?
Yes, thank you. Maurice Odom, if you can speak to this question, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Dixon. To President Dare, to Board Member Dr. Pierce, these particular projects in 18.9 is definitely, it's a HVAC upgrade for Operation Fix-It. This has already been bidded, but quite naturally, it's going to upgrade our HVAC system in those areas, which will be able to bring in more fresh air from the outside and have better automation controls. Currently, those systems are at the end of useful life, or for example, at the Everett building, there is no AC in those buildings. And by this model, we're able to, again, have a more up-to-date HVAC system, but also have automation controls where we can be able to monitor those offsite as well as from our Buildings and Grounds Energy Management Office. And then I think you had a question about 18.11. Would you like me to carry on that one?
She said it was the same question. You did not mute. It's the same question.
18.11 is a deduct change order. And that 18.11 is money that we're receiving back from the vendor. It was a project at Medina where some damage to our sidewalk, and this is their portion to pay to repair the sidewalk at Medina Middle School.
So in part of that snippet, that description, it says for the HVAC renovation. So again, that just refers to the sidewalk. That doesn't refer to.
So the reason why it's written that particular way, it's the way the legislation is originally written. That's the contract. The contract was part of the HVAC renovation at Medina in those areas. So therefore, you write the legislation the same way so we can get the deduct change order for that particular contract.
Excellent.
Which
Thank
is
you
money
so
we're
much.
receiving back.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying
Thank
that.
you.
Board Member Brown has a, do you have an item you want to discuss or a question about those two?
Well, I just wanted to comment about this section of the consent agenda with respect to the facilities management legislation. Last Thursday, I attended the meeting of the NSBP, and at that meeting, Alex Trevino presented some really encouraging information about how we're doing with the LEDE program and to what extent we've improved over the past in this area. It was really enlightening and good to hear. I hadn't realized that we'd made that much progress. Obviously, there's always more to be done, but I wanted to commend not only Alex, but Maurice Oldham and the rest of the team that works in this area for such good results. And hopefully we can hear more about that for the full board in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Any other comments or items to discuss on the consent agenda? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly?
Can I say yes?
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
and President Adair.
Yes.
The motion carried.
Thank you so much. We are now into item 24, which is board announcements. Does any board member have any announcements they would like to share this evening? Dr. Pierce.
I just have one, and I think it just connects to my words of thanks that I said earlier. With the recent election that we've had, not only have I had conversation with my children, but also with their peers and with my students at the Ohio State University. And I just want us as a community to rally behind our students, rally behind our children right now. There's some uncertainty around what will happen with the election. And no matter what happens with the election, our kids need to know that we support them, that we will be behind them, no matter what happens. And so if you have an opportunity to just sit down with a young person and be of encouragement to them, let them know that their voice matters, let them know that we're excited and looking forward to them becoming, adults so they can fully engage in our beautiful governance system. Sometimes it doesn't work the way we expect it to work. And, that's the beautiful element of it, is that we can change it through policy, through voice, through action. And so I would just encourage all of us to be encouraging to our young people, be encouraging to those families that are dealing with evictions, that are dealing with job loss, that are dealing with the loss of loved ones, as they also experience this election. So just take a moment to encourage somebody around you.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. Vice President Reyes.
Thank you, President Adair. I just wanted to mention, since Dr. Pierce had stated the eviction again, I wanted to share with our families and our community that there are resources for those individuals who have been impacted by COVID. They're available with a lot of our nonprofit organizations, such as Catholic Social Services, the Columbus Urban League, Impact. If you are facing eviction and you need rent or utilities, there are some services, there are some qualifications and some questions that you have to answer, but do not feel like you're isolated or out there alone. There are a lot of CARES monies that are available for our families. So please reach out to somebody, reach out to Columbus City Schools and see if they can refer you to somebody. Call 211. They have a list of resources available for you. We should not have anybody being, if they need the help, please. I know there are many of you that this is the first time that you're experiencing some challenges because of this virus. And a lot of times we don't know where to turn because we've never had to turn there before. Please know there is a lot of help and referrals available. So I just want to make sure that our community partners and our families are aware. There are many organizations that have also bilingual services. So if you are speak a different language, please rest assured that these agencies that have been provided some of this money are out there. And note that this money is only going to be available possibly till mid to late December. So it's available now. Go and apply. At least ask the question to see if you apply. And congratulations, Dr. Pierce.
Thank you, Vice President Reyes. Looks like we have Board Member Brown, and then it will be Board Member Cole.
Sorry, trying to find my mute button. Just very briefly, reflecting on the election season and especially on the election that was held yesterday, and yet we are still in the midst of that election. Just wanted to comment that I continue to be very confident in our Constitution, the United States Constitution, that the Constitution will prevail. I think that it's important to remember, as Bobby Kennedy said some years back, democracy is messy and it's hard. It's never easy. But Caroline Kennedy followed up with statement, the bedrock of our democracy is the rule of law. And that means we have to have an independent judiciary, judges who can make decisions independent of the political winds that are blowing. As a former active judge, I fully agree with that statement. I think that the most important thought is that things are working exactly as they should. Every state is doing its best to make sure that every vote counts. Every state is doing its best to work through their process at a reasonable pace, but wanting to assure accuracy. And that nothing at this point is wrong about the election process. It's not unusual to have things. And I think there's some really good lessons from this election and election season for our students in particular. That it's incredibly important that everyone participate, including our students as they come of age to vote. Even before that, because we have 17-year-olds who have helped out at the polls. So I want to commend everybody for participating in the process and at least from my perspective, assure everyone that we're not at a point that there's a crisis. We're not at a point that there is anything out of the ordinary. That it may take some time before we have an outcome, but it's working. The system's working exactly as it should. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Brown and Board Member Cole.
Thank you so much, Madam President. This too is a very brief reflection on the election cycle. And whatever its outcome may be, I am really in a space of imploring, asking that all of us seek wisdom and seek peace, and not just peace in behavior, but peace of mind. Look for that level of settlement and groundedness as we move forward. Now is not the time for rash behavior. Now is not the time to go back to the streets and tear our communities apart. Now is the time to come together and strategize. And watch this. It doesn't matter who the president is, whether it is Mr. Biden or Mr. Trump. Now is the time to strategize, to organize, and to build our movement the way that we should, and ensure that future elections do everything that we've set out for democracy to do. So let's not turn democracy into demo-crazy. I'm just asking and imploring those out in our community who are pondering the idea of going back into our streets and destroying our own neighborhoods and our own communities and bringing ruin to our own city. I'm really asking you and imploring you and even demanding you and challenging you to do different, to think different, to plan differently. And then I think we will see a different outcome. God bless you and everybody else watching.
Thank you for that, Board Member Cole. I would like to say thank you to our teachers who are helping our students through this. Today, I got to overhear my fifth graders teacher try to explain the Electoral College to fifth graders, answering all of their questions and doing so in a very good manner. So just as my other board colleagues have said, we do not have an answer yet to the election. We will continue to be a strong community. Our community, was different than the rest of our state. And so, we know we're going to get through this together. We're going to keep at the top priority all issues of equity and justice for our students and community. That has always been the path we are on and the path that we will remain on. And we will do it together as Columbus, because that's what we do here in Columbus. So I just wanted to thank all the teachers who tried to explain it today, especially to those little ones. And we will get through this together. And you know, like the 5th grade teacher said today, we might not know anything until Friday. So it's okay if you ask questions, but we might not know anything until Friday. So so thank you to all of our staff who are doing that, and thank you to board members who
Which
brought up.
Friday are you talking about?
Well, I don't know. She just said Friday, so I think she was trying to stop their questions. Anyway, so thank you all so much, and thank you all for who are here in the room today for practicing our hybrid meeting model. Thank you to our staff who set this up. Thank you to everyone who is participating online. If for fun, next time you all can put a mask on too and join us. And we will just again continue to work through this together and do everything in the name of our children. So with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
President Adair,
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you so much. Good night to everyone and have a wonderful tomorrow. We'll see you in a few weeks.